it over.
I'll take it from there in a minute. For a minute.
You got it.
David has some business for all of us, but I want to welcome everybody to the June 10th meeting of the Heritage Commission for 2020. And welcome everybody. David's got some business to take care of before we get started with approval of minutes or anything like that. This is a review of meeting procedures. Turn it over to you, David.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. Due to the coronavirus pandemic and pursuant to Governor Sununu's emergency order number 12, issued on March 23rd, 2020, in accordance with Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically without a quorum physically present in the same location. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting. However, in accordance with Emergency Order 12, we have taken action to provide public access to the meeting by telephone with potential additional access by video, provide public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, and provide a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. For this meeting, Microsoft Teams is being used as the communication platform. All members of the Heritage Commission have the ability to communicate contemporaneously, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in the meeting by visiting lebanonnh.gov/live and clicking on the pertinent listed meeting. Instructions on how to attend are provided on the same webpage. To assist in the preparation of the meeting minutes and to ensure all participants are aware of who is participating, all speakers are asked to identify themselves and to spell their first and last names before beginning to speak. You guys know who you are, and Megan knows who you are, so that's just announce who's speaking when you ask a question or make a comment. In order to ensure the best possible transmission of the meeting content, it is suggested that you disable the camera on your chosen device to reduce the video feed and increase the available bandwidth for all attendees. To improve sound quality and reduce the amount of feedback in the system, please ensure that your microphones are muted unless you are asking a question or making a comment. If anybody has a problem with access during the course of the meeting, please call 603-448-1457, extension 1472, or email planning@lebanonnh.gov. In the event that there are technical difficulties and we are unable to hold the meeting, it will be adjourned and rescheduled. All votes taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. The meeting will begin by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their name, please state whether there's anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under RSA 91A. And with that, I will turn it back over to Chair Welsh to execute that roll call attendance.
Okay, so David, you've got the list of names, right?
I do, yes.
Is there an order that I should go in?
No, if you would like, I can do the roll call.
Can you handle that roll call for us?
Sure. Rob Welsh.
Here, present.
And anyone in the room with you?
My wife is in the room, but she's on her headphones and reading a book and listening to music on her own.
Okay. Linda
she's
Cole?
not paying attention.
I'm present, and there's no one in the room with me.
Okay. Rebecca Book?
Present. My husband is with me.
Okay. Raymond Book?
Present.
And I don't think Mimi Haynes or Karen Zook or Bruce Bronner are present. If they are, please speak up.
I heard from Mimi that she's not going to be with us tonight. She had a conflict.
Okay. Well, we have a quorum and we've executed the roll call attendance, so I will turn it over to you with the agenda then.
Okay. The first item of business is the approval of minutes from February 12th. Did all of you get copies of that?
Yes.
Yes.
Maybe a second time. Anyone have any modifications or amendments to this?
No.
No.
Okay.
No.
I would entertain a motion to approve. the minutes that we've received?
This
make
is
a
Linda,
motion.
so moved.
We have a motion to, a motion to approve. Do we have a second on that?
This is Becky. I second that.
Okay, Becky Book seconds and Linda Cole moves it. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor? We have to go a roll call. So I'm going to go Linda Cole,
Yes. Approve.
Rebecca Book,
Yay.
Ray Book,
Yay.
Rob Welsh. I'm going to vote yes. So that gives us a unanimous decision on that. So the minutes from February 12th meeting have been approved. Okay.
Rob,
Yes.
sorry, but before you move forward, did you want to
Whoops.
make any announcements?
Yes,
And
what I wanted to do was I wanted to acknowledge and announce that I think all of you have heard that we lost Greg Schwartz in March. He had a stroke. He was on the rail trail and had a stroke out there and died shortly after that. I'd like to have a moment of silence, a minute of silence in Greg's honor. I think he's served yeoman's duty as planning board rep on the commission for many, many years. I really have enjoyed working with him tremendously. And just in honor of him, I'd like to just have a moment of silence, if that's all right for everyone.
That's great.
Yes.
Okay. We're going to miss Greg. There's going to be a memorial service for him. I believe it's going to be in July, but I haven't heard from Susan exactly when that's been planned for. So anyway, that's what we're kind of waiting for to hear about that. Everybody will be notified by email. And if I don't hear back from everybody that you've heard about it, when we hear about it, I will announce it and I will give a call around to everybody, make sure everybody knows. If the
Okay.
event is probably Susan said the event will probably be down at St. Gaudens where Greg used to work.
Nice.
And
Nice.
we could go in a carpool or two if you want, if that'd be of use to anybody. So we'll arrange that when the time comes, but it won't be for another month at least. I know Susan is very concerned about the COVID issue. And so that's what I want to make sure about, is that everybody's safe. I also want to acknowledge one other thing. I spoke with Linda May last night. She has sold her house in West Lebanon and has moved down to Connecticut. So she will be rotating off of the commission as well. And what I'd like to do with Linda May is I'd like to prepare some sort of note or something, and maybe we could send it around to everybody and everybody could sign it. And even if it takes a month for us to get it all together and sign it, I'd like to have something that we could have for her to thank her for her long service.
May I speak?
Yes,
This
please.
is Becky. Is there any community service award through the city of Lebanon that we could give her? She served for a long time.
A long time. Well, you know, we're the Heritage Commission. We can develop an award, you know?
the city council, the city council does resolutions.
Yes.
Typically for long-serving members of various boards and committees. So that is something you could certainly bring forward.
Okay, so what I'd like is I'd like a motion from somebody that reads to the effect that I contact the mayor and the city council and ask them to celebrate her being on on the various boards and things that she has been on. Remember, she was on Dana House Committee before. She was also on the Fountain Committee when that existed as a Fountain Committee. And she's up until recently been involved with the Fountain Working Group. So I'd like to recognize all that. If you would, what I'd like is a motion that would authorize me to contact the mayor and the city council and get them to make that that recognition, if that's all right.
I can do that.
Okay, we have a motion.
Brooks.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we authorize Rob Welch to contact the city council so that an award showing community service appreciation can be given to Linda May Peck for her many years of service from 2002, I think, all the way up till present, and include all those different areas that she served at.
And it'll take me a few days to pull together all the things she's served on, because she served on a lot of things, right? But I think we really need to recognize her service.
Thank you.
And so that's a great way of putting it. Okay, so we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I'll second that.
Linda.
Linda seconds. Okay, any further discussion? Then can we do a roll call vote, David?
Yes, you may.
Okay. Linda, how do you vote?
Yes.
Becky, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ray, how do you vote?
Yes.
Rob, how do you vote? Oh, I vote yes. That seems to be unanimous today. Okay. That was hard. Okay. So anyway, those are the two items of announcement that I wanted to make. Our next is we don't have any public review items. Our next is a study items, and I think most of you have seen the Dana House roof that has gone up. That's the big work of the season that's finally finished. I think it looks lovely. It's not exactly the same roof as before, but I think it looks just fine. David, what did you say about Jay Barrett? What was his comment?
My understanding is that both Jay Barrett and the Public Works director expressed considerable pleasure at how well the work was done by the contractor.
What I liked about it was no sweat and no muss and fuss for any of us. We didn't have to worry about it, and they did it in a very quick time, I thought. Go ahead.
It looks wonderful, and this is Becky Brooks speaking. It looks very nice, clean.
We have over at the other end of town, near me, at the bottom of Hardy Hill, there's the covered bridge, which was also redone about the same time. And I thought that was done very nicely and very comparably. And I was really pleased.
The stairwell was covered also.
Yeah.
The stairwell cover was put on also.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah, it was done.
I didn't get out of the car and look. I just went over there and looked from the car. But I think that's wonderful. So, I mean, the Public Works has been doing some really good stuff even during the pandemic. So I think they deserve a round of salute and applause. So, so anyway, we haven't been meeting. We ordinarily would have our meeting this month in Dana House because of light. But of course, we're not meeting in person right now. So we will see if we can have a meeting later in the season if it's safe to come out, so to speak. But given as most of us are, well, all of us currently in the quorum are of an older nature, I don't think it's good for us to be meeting right now, to be perfectly frank. I miss seeing all of you. I miss seeing all of you tremendously, but I don't think this is a good time for us to be meeting until we get the clear sign from Center for Disease Control. But if we can, we'll have a meeting in Dana House maybe in September before it gets too dark early on and before they turn off the power. But anyway, so that's the Dana House. Special Projects Working Group. I have something to report here. What I wanted to talk about was the landmarks, but I'll push that down to other business. And so I don't have any other special projects to talk about. The fountain working group. I heard from Linda May last night. I think the fountain is complete now. It's got a solar panel up. It looks kind of odd because for those of you who can see, it's a piece of silicon about this big by this big. And it sits out there in near the fountain. And so it catches the rays and it does a good job of getting enough power for the day. I just went power on my house this spring. So I'm coming to you by solar power right now.
Oh, nice.
And it's awesome. It's really awesome not to be paying Liberty Utilities anymore. In any event, they're actually paying me for my power, my excess power. Anyway.
They're paying us also.
What's that?
This is Ray. They're paying us also. I've had solar for 10 years.
It's wonderful, Ray. You told me I would like it, and I really do.
Oh, absolutely.
I really do. Absolutely. Anyway, but I saw the solar panel up there, and it needs a little bit of work with the soil and the plants around the grass around the fountain, but it looks very nice. I got a call from Linda May Peck last night, and we talked for about an hour, and it's a bit confusing, and I still don't know the exact answer. But she says that Priscilla, who's the only remaining member of the Fountain Working Group, and she will rotate off of the Fountain Working Group whenever the dedication of the fountain happens, and when it's finally turned over to the city, then she's going to rotate off. And Linda May is, because she's moving out of town, she's rotating off right now too. But Linda May wanted to alert me to a couple of things. Apparently there's the pieces of the fountain that Linda May talked about at several meetings that she got from the Logan family. They were stored in DPW's warehouse over on Bank Street, yeah. And Patrick, the sexton for the cemetery trustees, he's planning to put in some sort of thing that will use those parts. I don't know if it's a fountain or if it's ornaments in a garden. I'm just not sure. I haven't been able to talk to him. I tried to talk to Priscilla this morning. I spoke with her briefly. She was at work, didn't want to talk to me about any of this, and told me not to call back about it. She just didn't want to talk about it. So I don't know what the real story is. When I went up to the cemetery yesterday evening, there was a trench over where the shed used to be over in Glenwood, but going back to the south. But it's not clear what that's going to be. If it's going to be a fountain, or if it's going to be a wall, or if it's going to be piping, or I don't know. So I don't claim to know anything about this, but I have let word out to Paula Mayville, the deputy city manager, and I've contacted Patrick, the cemetery sexton, that we'd like to know what's happening. We have no objection to them putting up another fountain if they want. But since we still control the responsibilities of the Fountain Working Group, even though the current members are basically in the process of rotating off later this summer, we should be informed of what they want to do. We will support whatever they want to do, but we just need to know about it. Because if we're going to have this board, we need to take care of those functions of looking after these things. We don't need to be the ones making the decisions. We need to be informed and be a clearinghouse. Does that make sense to you, David?
Yes, it does. And I understand that Deputy Manager Mayville has a meeting with Patrick McCarthy tomorrow morning, and we'll get more information about what's happening. And then once we know, it will be distributed and shared with the rest of the commission.
I'm not trying to be stirring up problems here. I really don't want to stir up any problems. I just want it to be working. But if we're going to have a fountain working group in the city, as Mayor Tuttle had established it, they sort of are the clearinghouse for fountains and should be informed minimally. That membership may be changing, and that means it still falls onto our laps to form a working group. We can add new people all we want, but we just need to, we want to have some sort of regular order is my concern. So that would be my only concern, and that's taken up a good part of my day today. Anyway, I think that's going to work out because I kind of have a feeling that Patrick isn't going to put in a fountain because I can't imagine a fountain being installed in 2 weeks because they're wanting to have it on the 27th of June, have the dedication because that's Mrs. Logan's birthday. And I think that's fine, but I can't imagine them doing a proper fountain in 2 weeks. But a garden spot or something like that, I think that's possible. So I don't know what it is. I'm waiting to hear back from Patrick, and that's all that's all I have to say about fountain.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
This is Becky. On June 27th, the dedication is for the Glenwood Cemetery or for this?
For the Logan, whatever it is, right?
Oh, the Logan part.
Yeah, and I don't know what they're doing with that. They haven't told us yet. But I did send a notice to Patrick, the sexton, saying that we don't object to the idea, but we want to be told about it so we know we don't get our wires crossed here. Linda May was particularly concerned that her donors for the fountain be acknowledged and it not be confused with the Logan family event, whatever that is. And I think it's much ado about nothing, but it's better to not have it be much of a to-do at all. You know what I mean?
Rob, this is David. As one final update, there is they are working to establish a dedication date for the Glenwood fountain.
Yes,
it has currently been
July, right?
It's currently pushed out to July while they finish some of the detail work that you mentioned.
Yeah.
But as soon as a firm date is scheduled, that will also certainly be shared with the commission members.
We have we have two issues on that, David. One is that I want everybody to be safe. We're all of an older sort. I mean, you're not so old, but you don't want to take it home either, the virus. So I want us to be doing it safe, and I want us to do it at a time when it makes sense to do it. Right now, I think in the Upper Valley, that would be fine to do it any time now, but we still have to observe distancing, social distancing and so forth. Sure. The other thing is I want everybody to know about it well in advance. And I'm going to let Paula arrange that with Priscilla. And then she'll notify us. I've asked her to let me know. David, you'll find out about it through normal channels, I suspect. And then you could remind us about it. And then we can all come and be there for the event.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yes, indeed.
I'm not trying to get involved with the setting the dates and everything, but to me, the pushing it back to later in the summer rather than earlier in the summer is a good idea from my point of view. But I'll leave that to the city manager's office for the decision on that. I just want it to be something that Priscilla and Linda May, if she wants to come up for that, can do it. And then they have to notify their donors and so forth, because that's the big issue there. So that's all I have to say on that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
I will tell you if there's any. I will tell David if there's any other issue, and he can send a notice around about what's going on with the other fountain. But I haven't heard anything specific, and it's just bits and pieces of information, and they tend to be very confusing. And what I'm concerned about is that we have really good relationship with the cemetery board of trustees and heritage and other boards and planning board and so forth and things like that. We need to be able to get along with all these people. That's my concern. Mm-hmm. But we do need to be, if we're going to have a what do you call it, a fountain working group, well, they should be fielding all the questions about fountains is what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, moving on. Lebanon historical landmarks. From last time we all were together was at the February event at Kilton Library when we had the Black History Month event.
Sure. Was that
And
the
at
sure?
that time, we had talked about putting a couple of properties. I thought it would be 3, but it turns out there's only 2 of the houses that we were talking about that have survived. One is the house right opposite the Dana House on Seminary Hill, and that was said to be a runaway slave place where they took in runaway slaves. And the other is the Wood House on the Meriden Road at the very south end of town. And those I wanted to put on the landmark list. I have done some research before the virus attack struck us all. I did get up to the Registry of Deeds, and I did some deeds research up there. Some of this one can do online, but I'm actually easy. I find it easier just to work with the actual documents on the shelf.
Mhm.
Anyway, I found those documents that I needed, so I've got to pull that together. What I'm thinking of, David, in the past, for those, we've just put a few sentences together, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. So what I will draft for next time, I wanted to get an okay from the commission to put these 2 properties on the landmark list. And then I would do the research on them and pull all that together. And by next month, then we will vote on it to approve them once you have some text. If that's all right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fine.
And the books, you guys are okay?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that
Good.
sounds great.
And you're
I'm
okay
glad
with
that
that,
you found
David?
it.
Yes, absolutely.
Good. Okay.
What are the addresses again? Do you know them off the top of your head?
I don't know them off the top of my head.
Okay.
One's at the south end of town on the Meriden Road. It's on the east side of town, so it'd be an even number. I've got it written down somewhere. I don't have it handy. And the
You
other
can
is,
just send it later.
yeah, I've got to put together a couple of a paragraph about them, each of them. But I haven't done that yet. I wanted to get an okay, and then I'll do that, and we'll prove it next month, if that's all right. Then the other one is the runaway slave house on Seminary Hill Road. It's the beautiful house with the beautiful slate roof, the brown slate roof opposite Dana House.
Mhm.
It's like 7 or 9 Seminary Hill Road, I think. Anyway, that's the other one. The third house turns out that we had gotten bad information from Fran Hanchett about where Thomas Pennick lived. It turns out he lived right along the railroad in East Lebanon, what's used to be called Mascoma later. But that house has long disappeared. So the one she thought was his was not actually. But so we'll pass on that one. There's another matter that just came up this afternoon, just a couple of hours ago. I got an email from Laurel Stavis, who lives in West Lebanon, who's a member of State House for representing all of us. She lives over on Fountain Way, or one of those streets in that subdivision. And she's interested in preserving the Dunkin' Donuts building at the south end of Main Street, near the intersection with Seminary Hills Road. I explained to her that we don't have money to buy and preserve properties, but that we would have no objection to considering putting that on as a landmark property if that was the desire of the commission. And we do need to do a little bit of research on that property. I haven't done anything on it. I just heard about it this evening. It's different from the other 2 because the other 2 are unique in their own way. But this is much more like the little store on School Street, Muriel's Donuts, and the Dairy Twirl, and which represent sort of modern American life. And this is a little bit later than those, but it's when they got started. But I think it's certainly worth considering, and I have no objection to put it on. I do need to do a little bit of research on that before I have that ready for you guys, but I'm happy to proceed with that if you think it's a good idea. So I tossed that out there, and I'd like some reaction.
Actually, I have some information you might be surprised about. In the early 70s, when I was married to Victor, who was in real estate, Victor Young, Dunkin' Donuts asked him to do a road count study because they wanted to bring business to this area. So he actually did do that and told them how many cars went by every day.
Oh my gosh.
And they ended up, starting the Dunkin' Donuts.
Do you have that study?
No, are you kidding? Simply,
Well, see, the academic in me, I have it in a box, filed and scanned, I've got a PDF of it.
I was the wife at home with the two little
I understand. I understand. This is not criticism. It's just, that's why I ask, because I would have it copied already.
But
I just have to
kind
put
of
the right file folder,
Yeah.
But do you think it's worthwhile pursuing if I get some information from Laurel Stavis about this so we can pursue?
I do. There's been some stuff on Facebook about it too. So comments about doing something.
Well, if any of you, because all three of you live in West Lebanon, if any of you have thoughts or information about it that you'd like to be archived with this, even if it's very informal, send that to me in an email personally, one-on-one, and I'll compile all that and put it together. What I've done so far is I've written it back to Laurel, told her that we don't have money to buy the property and do anything, but if she wants to preserve the property, she should try and think about what the building could be used for that makes sense. Right. And she immediately thought of Lucky's downtown. They might be interested in expanding to West Lebanon. This is probably not the year for that, to be quite honest. But anyway, it gives you a sense of.
There's not a lot of parking either, so.
Yeah. It's an awkward spot, to be honest. It's really for foot traffic, I mean, they have like 4 places to park in, And
no,
so,
more than that.
Probably 8.
8.
8, okay.
Yeah.
Well, you get the point.
But hard to get in.
Anyway, it is an awkward spot in that sense, but it's I have no objection. And I said to her, we did put Mural's Donuts and we put the little store. I think the little store was first, wasn't it, David?
I think it was. You also did Dairy Twirl.
Yeah, we did that later. Yeah. But that shows our recognition that these things from when we were all children. I mean, I wasn't a child here, but when we were children, these things were going strong in town, and they should be. We should celebrate that because it doesn't have to be a 19th century or 18th century building to be a historic one. We've never felt that, So if that's all right, I think I have a consensus here that we should go forward with that, and I'll put something together for our next meeting. And I'm hoping that I get something from Laurel Stavis. I threw it back into her court. Because what I don't like is when people say, it would be a good idea for you to do all this research, right? Which I've gotten over the years many, many times. And if people don't have skin in the game to do some of the research themselves, I don't think it's terribly important. But if they do have skin in the game and they're willing to do something, I'm willing to help them with it. And I can put it into a format that makes sense for us. But if that comes to pass, I will present that next time with a write-up and so forth for you guys to vote on, and we can vote on it then. This time I wanted to get the other 2 properties approved so I can do the write-up, and then we can finally formally approve them all at the last minute. Okay?
Yep.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah.
So we've got a consensus there.
Yep.
And David, you see no problem logistically or legislatively or legalistically with this?
I see no problem.
Good. Okay. I just want to make sure I'm doing it right and I'm not. stepping out of my bounds. Education and outreach. We haven't been doing much except we haven't actually talked about how successful the event in February was, but I appreciate all of you that were there. I thought it went really well. I thought Michelle was great. I thought it was nice to have Fran speak. And also, I really appreciated having our interns speak briefly, as it was. But I thought it was a very nice event. That was sort of the last event I went to that was a public event where I could actually see people in person, aside from a couple of ventures out for shopping. So that's the last we did. But I thought that was very successful.
I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate everybody's help there because a lot of you helped in diverse ways in just making it happen. So that's all I have for that. The Arts and Culture Commission, I haven't met with them. I'm on the commission, but I haven't met with them, and I think, David, they haven't met yet since the COVID started, have they?
Correct. They have not met since February either.
Are they planning to meet on Teams?
I haven't reached out to the chair yet about June. I think they might be willing to try a Teams meeting here in June, but they've just been similar to Heritage. They didn't have any urgent items to discuss, and they have felt a little bit overwhelmed with everything else that's going on. So they've been happy to just sort of lay low for a while.
Well, Jessica's got the kids home from school and all that, and I mean, it's dealt with each of us very differently, but I think this COVID virus pandemic has had a profound effect on society, and I really salute all of you for hanging in there and being here tonight. I think that's really awesome, and I really appreciate that. That's all I have for tonight. Is there anything else that anybody else has? Becky, do you and Ray have anything?
I don't think so. I was just wondering where Rebecca Owens is.
She's still on the staff. She's taken on another project. She just finished the bike rodeo that she does with the Ped Bike Committee and various other community groups.
Okay.
And now she's going to be taking on an issue with broadband access.
Oh,
because
as we need it,
we found out that just how few people have access to high quality internet access through this process. So she's been tasked with that, along with everything else that she's still doing. So
well, that's awesome. That's great.
I have one question.
Ray.
Is Greg going to be replaced from the planning board with someone?
I just spoke with the chair of planning this morning. This is
Bruce Garland.
Bruce Garland. I've forgotten his name for a minute. Bruce Garland. I spoke with him. He announces it at every planning board meeting, and he's waiting for one of his members to volunteer. He's a little bit more hands-off than I would be. Were it me, I would just say to one of them, I'd like you to be, but he's not willing to do that. So we're waiting for one of them to volunteer. Of course, Greg was great value on that. David, is there a way that we can encourage people to join the Heritage Commission? Because now we have a couple of we have another slot open with Linda Maybean.
Absolutely. Talk to your friends and neighbors who are interested in the history of Lebanon.
Yeah. So what I would encourage is if any of you talk to anybody who might be suitable to join us, reach out to them and have them contact David or contact me. And they have to fill out forms, and they have to get interviewed, but it's, as you all know, these are not difficult things. And they don't get into anything too personal about the questions. Right. But it's just a pro forma thing, really. And but they will do an interview by somebody on the council. and it'll be done on the telephone, not in person. So it's very low key.
Mhm, mhm.
I think the biggest problem we're going to have is getting somebody who's willing to deal with MS Teams. Is
Yeah.
it
What?
Yep.
The computer.
Oh,
the
yeah.
computer? Because it may be a while before we actually are meeting together in person. I'm
Yeah,
eager to meet
yeah.
together, but I don't want to do it if it's dangerous. I absolutely don't. We're
Yeah,
all
yeah.
we're all older folks, and
We're in the risk group.
yeah, we are. And as I tell
Yeah.
people, if I'm on the low end of the group age group of the group, and I just turned 70, we don't want to be dealing with this. I want us to
Mhm.
be safe. And I
Yeah.
actually see that one of my major roles in Lebanon during the pandemic was I was the first one not to meet in person because
Mhm.
back in March because I just thought it was too dangerous. And I feel like we helped set a pattern for the other departments and boards in the city, and I think that's an important role to have played. I'm getting tired of it at this point, but I want to stay safe because every time we get on, I have had on MS Teams. I have had problems one way or the other getting on. I even had some problems earlier. Fortunately, I started a half an hour before we started, so when I finally got it figured out, it worked. But
Mhm. Mhm. I think that's
uh,
true. Once we figure it out, it will be easy because I know Zoom was such a big barrier to me with DAR, and as soon as we figured it out, it's so easy. It's so much fun, and we get
yeah,
so much done.
yeah. Well, I think we've done yeoman's duty. So, Linda? Do you have anything else that you want to add, or Ray?
I don't have anything.
No,
And David, anything else that you want to add?
Sure, just a very quick announcement that the city was notified by Division of Historic Resources that we are being offered a CLG grant for this
Oh,
latest
wow.
round. It's up to $16,000 to update the existing historic district area forms. Apparently, the information and the formatting and the data has
Yeah.
changed over the last 35 years or so since it was
Mhm.
originally
Mhm.
nominated. So they've asked us to do, um, or they're giving us a grant to do that update, and also to consider some new historic district design guidance,
Okay.
which could become a part of the zoning ordinance, section 408, I think.
Wonderful.
And so those we have written back to them to say thank you and that we intend to accept the grant. I believe it is still awaiting governor and council a blessing
Approval.
from
Yeah.
there. But I understood from Rebecca that they have given us the ability to go ahead and submit a request for qualifications to start soliciting. Basically, it is expected that the grant will run from essentially August of 2020 through August of 2021, with final report and deliverables due then. So that's just a quick announcement. As
Do
that
we
comes
do we know
together,
how much they gave us?
up to
16.
16,000.
16,000. Okay.
So
Okay.
as
Well,
that
that's
comes
awesome.
together, we'll be giving more updates to the board, to the
Okay.
commission.
Well, when the time comes, can one of you send off notices, emails to all the people we've worked with? Here's where I do not want to invite Jay Barrett on this one, but I'm willing to have Vespasian come back again, or Scott, or there's several other people we can work with. There's not a problem with that, right?
Yeah, DHR has a list of qualified
Yeah.
architectural historian consultants, and we can send it out to all of them or pick a selection of them.
Why don't I talk with you about that, David? If the group of you will allow me to do this, let me look over the list and we'll pick out a group of, say, 5 or 10 of them to invite. What do you have, a request for qualifications? Is that how you do it?
I think it'll be a request for qualifications as opposed to a request for proposal per se,
Yeah,
because
we've got the proposal. Yeah.
scope is pretty well defined at this point.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything for them to propose, but it's just qualifications. And I'd like to see if we can get some. What I'm looking for in this is to find somebody who's a little bit younger, and they're hungrier, and will do what we need to do. I'd like to have somebody that we can hire for the next grant and the next grant if we need to, right? Does that make sense, everybody?
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
So I know Lisa Vespasian is awesome. She does wonderful work, but she's busy up to her eyeballs in stuff right now, or so I'm told from her and from other people I've talked to. And Scott has been quite busy with a lot of his other projects as well. Now, both of them would be fine from my money, but it's about getting somebody who we can work with over the long haul, and we can call on them when we need them for something.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd be nice to develop a relationship with somebody else, because we developed Lisa, but she's busy as they come, and Scott is fairly busy as well. So anyway, that's my thinking about it. So if you'll allow me, all of you, I will work with David, and we'll get a request for qualifications and everything ready and send that out. Okay?
Okay.
I think that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah.
You're happy with that, David?
Sure, absolutely.
Good. Okay. And then we don't have to, we've approved that we will seek that and send it out, and we won't be getting this officially for about a month, you think?
Possibly 2, but
Okay.
yes.
But then we've got about a year to get it done, right?
Correct. Yeah, we'll work. Obviously, we'll work closely with Division of Historic Resources and follow their guidelines, because it is a grant. It is their money, and we don't want them to not pay for something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, well, I leave that to your qualified hands and talented hands on that one, David. So, because you know me, I just want to get the money in our, for projects we want. And I think I've always been one to go out for grants, and I think that we got one. I didn't expect to get this one this year. I really thought they were going to turn us down because they were too busy with other things. So I'm delighted. I think that's awesome
Good.
news.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for following up on that, David. I really appreciate that. And Rebecca, if she's doing some of this as well. So anyway, anything else that you needed to report, David?
No, sir.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? If not,
No,
I'm going
no.
to call the meeting. I would seek a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
We have a motion from Becky to adjourn. Do we have a
I'll
second?
it.
Ray seconds
This
it.
is for-
Okay. All those in favor? Linda May?
You mean Linda
She's
Cole?
not here.
I mean, sorry, Linda Cole. Sorry.
Yes.
I'm looking at you and I'm saying Linda May, right? Linda Cole. I've got Linda May on my brain because I talked to her last night for an hour. So Linda Cole, do you
Yes.
agree to adjourn? Yes. Ray?
Yes.
Becky?
And Becky, yes, yes.
And Rob? I'm Rob, and I say we'll adjourn. So thank you, David. Thank you, Megan.
Thanks, David.
You're welcome.
you,
Good to see
you all
everyone.
soon. Glad to see
night.
everybody.
You too.
Okay.
Yeah, take care.
Becky and
Bye.
Ray, if you guys want to call, oh, it looks like they're already gone.
Okay. See you later, David. I'll check in with you